So the situation in Portland has taken an interesting turn. As you remember, there are federal agents who were deployed to Portland. They were deployed July 14th to quell the protesters, or rioters, however you want to look at it. I say protesters because at the time there was very little property damage being done. There was very little violence. You can actually go look at the statistics, and it shows that personal injuries reported. The last date that's pretty clear was July 10th. Um, the personal injuries very very low. Property damage very very low. It was insignificant. It was broken windows, things like that, which local cops can handle. Uh, so these guys are part of the border agents. They're like a SWAT team, CBPT, and it took an interesting turn today because it seems like President Trump is maybe trying to weaponize them against another party, and to weaponize them here in this country. Here, I'll play the video now.
Over the weekend, protests in Portland have gone on for more than 50 consecutive days. The mayor told me yesterday that the protests and the intensity have escalated since the Trump administration began sending in those federal agents. Mayors of 5 major cities sent a joint letter to President Trump and Attorney General Barr today calling for the removal of federal officers from their cities, saying, quote, the unilateral deployment of these forces into American cities is unprecedented and violates fundamental constitutional protections and tenets of federalism, unquote. This after President Trump today announced that he's going to send even more agents into cities run by Democrats. He specifically listed Philadelphia, Oakland, Detroit, and Baltimore as places where he may send federal law enforcement agents. The political context of this, of course, cannot be ignored. The president is sinking in polls.
So yeah, and here I'll briefly go over why they've been so troubling in Portland, and namely because they're just making the situation worse. The first thing is they're not trained. There was someone in the DHS, which by the way, these things don't get leaked accidentally, leaked a memo showing that these agents haven't been trained to handle protesters or mass civilian situations. Because the reason why that's important is because the DHS actually condemns what they're doing. They are not a fan of this group and these tactics that are being used. It quite frankly makes the DHS look bad, namely because it kind of reminds you of martial law. One of the other big issues with this group is that they aren't communicating with the civilians. They aren't saying, "Hey, I'm Agent blah blah blah. You are being detained for this reason. You are suspected of this, this, and that. You need to come with us. We need to ask you some questions." That would be fine. What they're doing, and there's a situation of a kid walking home wearing all black. Uh, this militia looking dude jumped out of a van, grabbed him, threw him in the van, pulled a hat over his eyes so he couldn't see, took him to a federal building, read him his Miranda rights, suggested he waive his rights to answer questions. Now, the kid responded with, "I need to talk to my lawyer now," and they let him go. It's incredibly problematic, though, because number one, what if he hadn't called for a lawyer? This kid could have been, processed on false charges. We don't know. It's incredibly problematic when you give this much free reign to any sort of federal agency at all, where they can go and just pick and choose who they pick, how they grab people. It's a problem. It goes even further because the Trump administration and CBPT and Border Patrol itself never notified Portland that they were sending these guys. So you have sheriff's deputies, you have mayors who are just like, who are these guys? They were informed actually by a journalist by the name of Ken Klippenstein, who said, hey, these guys are from the federal government. Yeah, what great communication. So there's just no communication at all, and these guys aren't trained to do it. Now you have a situation where President Trump is now threatening other cities. Hey, I'm going to send my own secret police into your city. And they're saying we don't want them there. Keep them out. Uh, there was a group on the right who had talked about Obama having secret police, talked about it could happen here. That's what this is. Like it or not, just because it's a right wing president doing it, that's what that is. So, you Second Amendment guys, step up, get involved, help protest and protect these people. And I say that because it gets even worse than what I just said. As in, this group was created after 9/11 to patrol our borders. That was it. Just to patrol our borders. Keep them safe, keep bad guys and terrorists out. Fair enough. I like that. Great. But then Donald Trump signed in this bill that they were meant to protect statues and memorials and things of that nature. Okay, I get that too. Now, you would say, well, then shouldn't these guys, these agents, shouldn't they be inside of federal buildings instead of being on the streets of Portland? And yeah, that's exactly what the sheriff's department and the mayor has also asked for them. Stay inside the federal buildings, protect them from there. If they attack your buildings, then sure enough, you're allowed to step in. It's your job. But now they're engaging people on the streets. But here's the other downside. When they are talking about going to Chicago, which they said this weekend they will be going to Chicago, um, have even more troops who have not been trained, by the way, which is, I'll get to that in a second. They are going to go to Chicago to handle gun violence, to get guns off the streets, to go after quote unquote gang members and thugs, and to deal with outstanding warrants. That is 100% not their job. That 100% turns into a secret police martial law situation. And if you are principled that those are a problem and you adamantly support our Second Amendment because of things like that, this is when you get involved. This is when you start protesting. This is when you say, look, I'm completely against what these guys are doing here. I'm completely against what the protesters are doing as well. But I have to have my own principles and I have to stand on those principles. It's a problem. And it sets precedent. It really does. You don't think Biden would do the same tactic now? Because right now, it looks like America will put up with it. We'll deal with it. And you're going to have the left who are going to say, well, when we get a president, we want to go intimidate the right wing. Let's send Biden's secret police to Dallas. Have them go down to Kentucky. Don't you, you think right wingers aren't going to be protesting anytime soon? Of course they will. They're playing this dangerous game of chicken back and forth. And we're the ammo. We're the soldiers they're using. They want us to hate each other so much. But if we become principled and we stand united against them, they're not going to be able to do that. It is such a problem in so many ways. I fear that this is one of those steps that leads us to the end of what we know as America. It's not social programs, it's not government spending, it's fascism. I mean, right there. The majority of people are complaining. Why are we dealing with this? We have another crisis that's being created by our president? For what? And as I said before, July 9th in Portland, after 10 p.m., there was 13 protesters, peaceful protesters. July 16th, there were 280 after 10 p.m. And the number just keeps going up because when these agents deployed onto a city without telling anyone started nabbing people, the people on the sidelines got interested. the people on the sidelines started showing support. I said it yesterday. This is a tactic. This is a military tactic. You do this to cause an uprising in a city so that you then can overthrow that government. Someone in the Trump administration is actively trying to cause chaos in democratic cities. I'm not trying to be an alarmist here. This is what's happening. Um, like I said it's been a military tactic for as long back as I can remember, and now it's being used here in America. I I just can't imagine a president actively being at war with his own people. Doesn't matter who they vote for. They're his people. Supposed to represent and protect and take care of us. Um, and again, I say, if you're right now laughing and you're, well, they get what they deserve. Okay, we'll remember that. And trust me, a lot of people will remember that. And when President Biden or President Kamala Harris or whoever, President Buttigieg, like, you're not going to win right wing all the way out, okay? When they win, they'll remember. They'll do the exact same thing. We can't let them do that. We can't go into a civil war against each other because our war is not with each other. The left wing is not your oppressor. The right wing is not my oppressor. We know who the oppressor is. And I mean, they're just playing. They're gambling. They're gambling using our lives, using our livelihoods. You think this isn't going to cause an economic problem? Of course it will. Anyway, I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on this one. It's a very convoluted story. I don't think enough people are really accepting the martial law aspect of it, the secret police, the yeah. I mean, you can trace it all back though to the statues, to the monuments, to that executive order that Trump signed in that allowed for these specific troops to protect those monuments, to protect those statues, and now they're out in the streets attacking regular civilians, beating up a Navy veteran, breaking his hand. Just think about how you would react if it was a guy who's not on your side. Think about if it was Obama doing all of this. It doesn't. I don't care what side you're on. This is a problem. This is definitely a problem.